say that she'll get getting by in this. So, she grew up speaking Portuguese with her Brazilian mother. And as a junior in high school, she attended 2 semesters of Portuguese classes on campus. And so she always had an interest in immersing herself more in her heritage, but time did not permit so. However, in the spring of 2013, while she was already engaged in a rigorous courseload on campus, she devoted time to write an essay to apply herself, to immerse herself in her heritage. She was selected for this award, and very pleased that she was. So she spent 2 months in a way that enabled her to combine many of her interests. She had exposure to her heritage, and as well, she spent time working on a project that helped the community to preserve endangered sea turtles. So that enabled her to open her eyes to her future endeavors of veterinary sciences, human and animal interaction, and conservation of animals. So the people who know Christina, that I know, in our laboratory, have no doubt that, she's very accomplished for such a young age. She's at other international programs in veterinary science endeavors. And we have no doubt that this helped to open her eyes for her future career goals, paths, opportunities. She's very devoted. She's very strong-minded, strong-willed, committed individual. And I'm sure that she'll be an asset to the field of veterinary sciences, environmental conservation, human animal interaction, or whatever else she's up to. It'll be very positive for the society.
One second.
Perfect. Ready?
Sure. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Francine, for all those words of kindness. So I was sitting at home, just scanning through my emails, when I saw this little pop-up that's one of those spam ones that usually gets said, "Oh, apply for the scholarship for a trip to Brazil." And I thought, well, I feel like not many people are going to apply for this because, Brazil's not that big on this campus. So I figured I'd just write a paper because I knew I was going down to Brazil this summer to work, or this past summer, work at Projeto, which is a sea turtle conservation internship place. So I decided to write about the project. I hadn't actually been there yet. So writing about the project before going, I realized after I read my paper there are a couple things I probably should have changed. But I decided to write about this project because it really interested me how TAMAR does a lot of social interaction work with the people who previously consumed sea turtles and caused their decline, and works with them to teach them why it's important for them to conserve the turtles and really just work with the biologists instead of against them. So this paper kind of shows sea turtle conservation as a multi-party effort instead of just one side or the other. I kind of tried to look at the social inclusion project that TAMAR had. So I'll use this. Oh, this one? This one? Oh, there it is. No. It's the first time I've done something
No
like this.
problem. There you go. You got the one. So it's just.
So in my introduction, I just kind of looked at Projeto TAMAR, its roots, where it came from. So it started as kind of a group of biologists from the University of Juvêncio. They wanted to know more about sea turtles because there was no information about sea turtles. They knew that they were being fished, they knew that they were being caught, but nobody knew if their population was in decline, if they're abundant, or what the situation was. So they started going around to the different local fishing villages and talking to the fishermen, asking them, hey, what do you know about sea turtles? Have you seen sea turtles? And they all said, oh yeah, we've seen sea turtles. There's not that many of them as there used to be. And they didn't know why, but the biologists started asking, oh, do you eat the sea turtles? Generally, the fishermen didn't like eating the direct meat of the sea turtles, but they did like consuming eggs. They also wanted to quantify the different species of sea turtles and define where they were located, the distribution, the abundance. So this is a very traditional picture they always showed us at the intern trainings. These are fishermen that have caught a female sea turtle that came up to the beach to lay her eggs, and they killed her. They hollowed out her shell and put all her eggs back into the shell to carry back to their village. This was not unheard of. This was not illegal. This was very legal. This tended to occur because the fishing stocks were being depleted. The local communities weren't able to eat their regular diet of fish, so they had to rely on the sea turtles. So their initial solutions, biologists' initial solutions for Projeto TAMAR were to employ the fishermen to protect the sea turtles. So instead of them gaining money from, gaining money from selling the eggs, instead, if they were to mark where the nests were located along the beaches, biologists would pay them for this, and then they would get a source of income from protecting the turtles. Another thing that they really stressed was the importance of education on the younger generations. So TAMAR really encourages all of the schools, all sorts of communities to come to the visitor centers, and they can tour the place for free. And as the interns, me, teaching little children, it was my job to teach them about the importance of turtle conservation. So the ages, we would get children from preschool all the way through high school to university level students, and it was the intern's job to teach them about conservation. For me, it was a little bit challenging because, one, the language barrier was very interesting. Although I've grown up speaking Portuguese, going down there and actually working with the people was very different than just speaking at home with my mom. I would use words, they would tell me, you don't say that anymore. That's what an old person says. I said, well, that's what I've learned. They said, no, you don't say that. As the project grew, they started getting corporate support from companies such as Petrobras and Arcor, who are Petrobras is a petroleum company in Brazil, and Arcor is a chocolate company down there. They also changed from being a governmental organization to being a non-profit governmental organization, known as Fundação do TAMAR. Governmental support started coming from IBAMA, which is the Brazilian Institute for the Environment. So the different sea turtles that they found in Brazil once they did their surveys were they found green sea turtles, loggerheads, olive ridleys, leatherbacks, and hawksbills. At the visitor center where I was working in TAMAR, we had 4 of the 5 sea turtles. Obviously not the leatherback, which grows to be about 2 meters long and weighs over 900 kilograms. So that one we couldn't have there. But all the other 4 species of turtles they had on their base to help educate locals, because for them it was much more interesting to the people to see the turtles, interact with the turtles, feed the turtles sometimes, and kind of build a relationship with them. And that kind of goes back to my interest on the human-animal relationships around turtles. So the human threats in the past started talking about the overharvesting of the nets, but they also often killed sea turtles to produce glasses and jewelry from the shells. So nowadays there's still shells that are there's still glasses that have the pattern called tortoise shell. So that kind of pattern came from the hawksbill sea turtle, which is this one down here, because they have a very beautiful shell, and everybody wanted glasses, jewelry, you name it from them. So it's very different from the current threats of today. So TAMAR was able to protect change the overharvesting to protection from the locals. The current threats now are a lot more complicated. So there's habitat destruction from the companies who want to build big hotels on the side of the beach, and they want to advertise, oh, it's this beautiful view, but wait, that's right in the nesting zone of the sea turtle, that's okay, they'll find somewhere else. Not really how it works. So female sea turtles always come back to the same beach to the day they nest where they were born. So if there's a giant hotel there, they're still going to come back to that beach and lay their eggs right there on the beach. And then what happens is that the human traffic walking on top of the nests will crush the eggs, and then they won't be able to hatch. Pollution is also a very, very big problem now. In this next slide, these were all samples that our veterinarian had found from doing autopsies on turtles. They're called necropsies. And this is all just trash. These turtles have all died from ingesting all this trash they found just floating along in the ocean. This problem is not a problem that can be solved directly by Projeto TAMAR because it's more of a global problem, which I'll get into in a little bit. Another problem is the fishing industries. There's longline fishing, which traditionally uses this J type of hook. This J type of hook, what happens is it gets stuck in the turtles. They'll swallow the bait and the hook, and then they'll ingest it, and the hook will get stuck either in their throat, in their stomach, and then all that'll pass is the wire. So this turtle had a hook stuck in its intestine somewhere over here, but since it was so stuck, only the wire had corroded, had broken the turtle's stomach acid, and then this wire ended up only passing through, so all you could see was that wire. So TAMAR came up with a solution to create new kinds of hooks. This is a circular hook that they now recommend you use, which instead of getting caught in the turtle, since it's more rounded, it tends to pass more easily. Or the fisherman can just take it directly out of the turtle's mouth. So this is a video of a net of a fisherman. This is only one fisherman's net. Oops. Nope. There we go. One day of fishing. It was a little bit shocking to me. It wants to play. It's playing here.
Oh, you know what? Maybe I messed up. This is the audio. It's not plugged in. Is it just click it?
It's not reading on the projector. I think it's just not playing up there at all. That's all right.
Oh, that's so strange. I don't know if that audio jack isn't working.
Well, I think it's just not reading on there at all. That's all right.
Not sure how to explain that.
No, it's
I'm
all
sorry
right.
about
Technology.
that. Okay.
It's all right. I'll pull up the video just itself. 'Cause I thought this was pretty shocking. So this was just one net from one day of fishing. All these turtles died drowned because turtles obviously don't breathe underwater; they breathe air. And it was just really sad to me because I knew that only 1 in 1,000 baby sea turtles that hatch will grow to adulthood, will reach adulthood. And now that, if you imagine those 1,000 baby sea turtles that died for every one of those large ones, then you know that's a good 12,000, 14,000, or even 30,000 baby turtles that died. So that to me was very shocking. But what I understood was that it wasn't the fishermen's fault that this was happening. They didn't want to catch the turtles. They were just trying to catch fish to feed their families. So TAMAR works very closely with the fishermen to kind of improve their fishing tactics to catch more fish instead of catching turtles. Turtles aren't viewed in a negative light in Brazil. They're viewed very positively, and around the world as well. Everyone sees them as they're very cute. I guess they're not very cuddly, but they're just still adorable. You see a turtle, you say, "Aw." And this comes from the fact that they can be viewed as a symbol of longevity and stability across many cultures. when they're used for eggs and for meat, then people associate them positively as opposed to negatively. They don't see turtles as a problem, as a plague, as some insects can be or other species animals. So this is where the two perspectives collide. So you have the utilitarian perspective from the local fishing villages, and then you have the ecologistic perspective from the people who are trying to save these turtles. The problem is that the ecologistic perspective would say, stop hunting turtles. And that's one way to do it, but then that's not going to encourage people who have to survive by using these turtles to stop hunting the turtles. So then, how do you put these two perspectives together? How do you get these people to work together on a unified cause to save these turtles? Interestingly, the ecologistic perspective tends to come from people who are much better off, have more money, have more wealth, have more time to develop thoughts to this. This utilitarian tends to come from more impoverished people who don't have, the education or the means to really think about preserving these turtles. So TAMAR works to unite both these perspectives by recognizing they know that these people need some kind of economic benefit to want to save these turtles. So what they do is they provide a lot of jobs to these local people. One of the things, let's see, what is that? So they employ the locals to protect them instead of trying to prosecute them for trying to survive. And then they also provide a lot of free education to the upcoming generations. So they have a lot of employment opportunities. At their visitor center, this is actually the visitor center I was working at in UW, and they have just general jobs, maintenance, they have jobs for secretarial duties, they have jobs for working at the front office. They have all sorts of jobs we provide to people. And at the smaller towns where the people were more directly affected, they have jobs as seamstresses. So these women all make the shirts that you see sold. So this is one shirt, I was actually wearing it earlier today, that was made by the seamstresses in these villages. And by doing that, they kind of teach the people, hey, save the turtles, because without the turtles, you're not really going to have a job. So we don't have anything for you. We don't have money if you don't have turtles. So another thing that I thought was really interesting was in TAMAR, they had what they call teenage production groups. So these groups, they would bring teens that were very at risk from like parents with drugs, parents who had problems with alcoholism, and they would employ them to make these little bags, little souvenir bags. If someone would buy something at their shop, then they would take them home in these bags. So these teams would make these bags, and it's very simple. They just, they take recycled paper, they press it, they cut it, they press it into this shape, and then they put this stamp on it. And I became pretty good friends with some of these kids, and some of their stories are really heartbreaking. And it was amazing to me that TAMAR was able to even thinking of these kids who weren't necessarily directly affected by the sea turtles, but they were still wanting to provide employment opportunities to them. So their outreach was a lot more to these groups instead of just people affected by the machine population. So another big thing was ecotourism. TAMAR has 11 visitor centers and 19 research stations along the coast of Brazil. When I was out, here. So at these visitor centers, they have generally tanks with different species of turtles for the visitors to look at. You pay a small fee to get in. Unless you're a school, then you don't pay anything at all. And then you can have an intern come around and walk you around the center and teach you, or you can just look by yourself. And this really helped. Building the visitor centers obviously helped by providing employment and just building awareness of the sea turtles' plight. The benefits, obviously, there's benefits economically, and also the locals, instead of just hearing about what's happening with the turtles, they actually see the turtle and they can associate directly why they should help protect them. Down here was, so TAMAR, if a fisherman caught a sea turtle, they would let TAMAR know, we would go pick it up, our vet would check it out, and then we'd let it go. But releasing the turtle was always a big event where they'd announce it everywhere in the town, and then people would flock to the beach to see it. They would take pictures, they'd always want to touch the turtles, little kids would run around. They're kind of crazy, but that's okay. And generally that just built a really positive image for the turtles. I even had a little kid that asked me if I could go swimming in the turtle tank. I said no. She looked very, very sad. But I told her, no. So another problem with conserving sea turtles is the spatial considerations, because turtles do migrate. a great deal throughout their lives. There's records of a turtle that went from Australia all the way to Brazil, and that's just the beginning of it. So they know that if they protect the turtles in Brazil, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be preserved throughout the world. So TAMAR really works to kind of work with international relations, other sea turtle conservation efforts throughout the world. But they know that the start is the local protection. That's the start. If the eggs can hatch, if they can make it to the water safely, then that's already a big step. So I can kind of conclude my paper with saying, you know, the perspective that TAMAR brought about for environmental conservation was definitely a new one I had never experienced here in the United States. I'd never really thought about social inclusion projects, working with preserving different species of animals. And this social inclusion really was one of their major points of success throughout the project. Sea turtles charisma really helps their cause, so I don't think this would work very well to say it's endangered cockroach or maybe something with many legs, but the fact that sea turtles are cute really helped out. And while their migratory patterns do pose a lot of challenges, that's an effort that TAMAR will continue always to work on, and eventually, hopefully, these threats can come under control and turtles will be better preserved. This is the little girl that tried to jump in the tank. And he came to me at school that they thought I was really cool because I was American. They said the only two words they know in America in English, they said hello, and then they said goodbye. I said, okay, that works, and that's all they knew, but they kept saying it to me. They're very cute. So I just want to thank Projeto TAMAR for giving me this opportunity, for risking bringing in an American to their visitor center and risking possibly offending many tourists by not being able to transmit the information correctly. But I also want to thank the committee here for choosing me for this award, because I know without this award I really wouldn't have been able to go down there, wouldn't have been able to learn so much about social inclusion, because here we don't really have that in the United States, but there it was a really refreshing perspective for me. And turtles going home.
So if you have questions for Jake and Christina, I will be glad to comment.
I'd like to spend a comment on that slide you showed of all the trash that causes deaths and turtles. That's really disgusting in our everyday life. How we can help prevent that happening.
So here in the United States, it is a little more under control. You don't find quite as much trash on the side of the streets. Down in Brazil, it is more of a problem. I would be riding the bus and somebody would unwrap a candy and just throw the trash out the window. And I'd just kind of sit there and be like, whoa, really? And to us, that seems, I mean, that would be a little bit of arrogance on my part, a little bit of arrogance from the United States culture, because I'm so used to trash going in the trash. But the problem is that the people down there don't realize that the trash thrown away maybe in the middle of the city, in the middle of Brazil, is going to travel through the rivers, out into the ocean, and then affect the turtles. They think, oh, if we clean up the beaches, it'll be fine. It's not true, because the trash comes from everywhere, and it's a really big effort to teach everybody, hey, put your trash in the trash bin. Like, make sure it goes somewhere appropriate so it doesn't kill a sea turtle.
Yeah, my comment is that because I worked with sea turtles for over 10 years, and trash that comes from Madison, Wisconsin, if it ends up in the waterway, and these are plastic bags that you see just blowing away in the wind, especially the 6-ring plastic or bullets, they end up in the Mississippi River, and they travel all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. And the Gulf of Mexico is a very important sea turtle area for adult sea turtles that forage there, and also some species that nest there. So, and the currents in the ocean can take all the trash that's floating in the water long distance, all the way from here, and then all the way down to Brazil. So every effort that we can make here to prevent, especially plastic, to float away, be blown away in the wind. I have a habit every time I take a plastic bag, I tie a knot. Simple as that prevents it from floating or blowing away, or use the other should be recycled. But if you just take the effort of take a plastic bag, tie it in the knot itself, that will help a lot. So they're there's simple things that you can do, and who knows, you know, you might be saving for one day. That's my message.
I have a question for Jake. If you had thought much, I know your presentation is limited in time, but if you thought much more, if you factored in much like the motivation for why the dam was built, like who's consuming that energy and for what purposes?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I couldn't really go into in this presentation. Is kind of the logic of Itaipu, because that I think drives, because it was so important and it was so critical to the development ideologies of the Brazilian state and of Paraguay, and kind of this turning point moment where Brazil shifted a lot of its attention towards new forms of development and modernization. If you understand the geopolitics of why this construction project was so important, it helps understand why someone like this journalist who's just writing about the farmers' movement that's criticizing the development project could get thrown in prison. So that's something that's definitely, you know, kind of the driving core of my larger project.
What percentage of Brazil's energy needs are currently being supplied by Itaipu? In order
25%.